Boom! Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to be back. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about something that's very simple in my mind. Short and sweet. And tonight's discussion is titled The Left versus Right. The left versus right. I understand, let me get right to it. I understand that we're in the year of politics. You have races on the local level and on the state level. So the atmosphere is politically charged. That's not uncommon. But what is untoward or crazy is the levels at which both political parties are willing to go to win converts or to gain more power. And oftentimes we, the public, are witness to this sparring in arguments that are couched in the left and the right. Now, these are supposed to represent two different ideologies. One believes in big government, the other small government. But my question is, do you see them arguing about such things? Such matters? They're willing to do anything to gain power in America. Nothing is out of bounds. There are no limits to what they will or won't do. And we have history as a witness to the lengths at which those who fight for power go to maintain and to regain that power. Now today we're exposed to this charade about Mrs. Sherrod of the USDA, who supposedly was a racist. And the person who brought it to light was Mr. Breitbart. He's well known in conservative circles. He was spoken at a couple of Tea Party rallies. Has a lot of websites of conservative leanings. But you see, here at the 5-Star Review, we're not going to get bogged down into these corners, the left or the right. Then they got people who are now sitting back taking sides. Well, I'm on the left. Well, I agree with the right. But if they examined the issue and what is being argued, they could not help but to conclude that everybody's crazy. Now, we have wasted too much time. Too much of the public's time, too much of the people who put these politicians into office. All they're doing is playing a game. They don't care what happens to the average American. I don't care what color he is. It's a game. And they have tricked so many of us into agreeing with this jive that they've sold to us in propagandistic overtones from day one. The left, the right. They have spiced something together. Then you got people, oh yeah, this and that. You're out of your minds. You're out of your minds. We don't have time for this. This is a game played to keep you looking right when they go left. Keep you arguing about an ideology when that same ideology puts you out of a job, makes you poorer than the poor. It's ridiculous. And the American public has allowed itself to degenerate. They love it into nothing more than savages with high technology. There's nothing more than a trick that they've sold, packaged, and we've bought. Left and right. The idiots. The left and right. What about America? I'm tired of all these labels that do nothing but constrict, and it allows anybody, whether of insane or sane mind, to come on the world stage and carve out a position, no matter how insane, and get the public to follow it. And we want to lay the blame at Hitler's feet. We have to examine ourselves. Black people and all others who are not white understand that we're now living in a time of white rule. If you hadn't or didn't hear me, we're living in a time of white rule. It wasn't always like this. You have to understand the history of humankind. You have to put it in the historical context to understand and the time in which you're living, so you don't get caught up into these idiotic, insane positions that do nothing but separate the public, the average American, the real American, while those in power who has no allegiance or have no allegiance to anything but a paper. It's all about money. That's another discussion. But we got to put it in historical context. At one time, the white man didn't always rule. There was black rule. The black man ruled. He had the greatest kingdoms and civilizations. Now, I can just imagine what it must have felt for those who looked different from the people who were in control at that time. There's going to be all types of feelings that permeate throughout the group, but you got to understand that time period and advance yourself, regardless. There were barbarian rule. Some, the Mongols. It was the Europeans who called them barbarians because they trashed and came and overthrew an empire that had ruled for almost 1,000 years. They were called the Mongols. But they're written in history as being the worst, dirtiest savages. But they just conquered the Romans. Okay? Then you had the Islamic rule. I didn't say Arab rule, I said Islamic rule, because the Moors of Spain who ruled from the year 711 to 1492 were blacker than me, or myself. So when you had that rule, you have to understand the people of Spain who were different from those rulers didn't rebel for 800 years. Now, the rulers at that time was not as harsh as what we have on the scene today. They built the first university in Europe, the University of Seville. So they weren't as harsh as what we have today. Today we have the white man's rule. The majority of white people are good people. You have a few who will kill their own to advance their position in society, in the group, or whatnot. So what we got to do is stop being so dumb and taken with any ideology that have you divided from your neighbor. I say throw them all away. Let's take the left and the right and get rid of them. And that is the goal of the 5-Star Review. You're no good to America. You're no good to yourself. And you're nothing but puppets being used by the power structure. Left, right, conservative, you're nothing. And you should not have a voice on the American scene. That is the goal of the 5-Star. That's the bottom line. We're bringing truth back. I love you. I miss you. Good night. Love yourself. Be easy.